All right, welcome everybody. My name is Vasily, and today we are going to talk about making domain layer of application. Is going to be very exciting, and that is about extent of Russian accent I can put on. Because my name is actually Ryan. I'm from Canada, not Russia. Although, good job Russians with JetBrains and Kotlin and IntelliJ. You know, they're doing pretty good. Anyways, this is not any sign of collusion, but yeah. Apologies for my horrible jokes. So let's get started. My name is Ryan, and you are watching, I think, like episode 5 or some shit of my live coding series. I got a bit confused about which episode it is because I technically did a couple episodes at the start of the year, and then I totally forgot about that. So I announced like the previous episode was number 3 or 4. And it's just a lot of numbers to keep track of. I only have so many fingers, so I think it's episode 5 though. During my wacky accent spiel, as I was saying, what I'll be doing today is working primarily in the domain layer of the application again, which is, I believe, what I spent most of my time doing last stream. So before we get to that stuff though, it is the part of the show where I talk about money. It's my least favorite part, to be totally truthful, but here we go. So first and foremost, if you like what I do and would like to see me do it better, then there's a couple different ways that you can support the WiseAss channel and community. So number one, you can consider following WiseAss on your preferred social media networks. So we have a Google Plus account. I'm sure you all use that. We have a Facebook account. We've got Twitter and a Slack channel, and of course the YouTube. So if you are watching on YouTube, which most of you will be, please do consider subscribing, hitting the like button down below if you learned something. And yeah, that's that. Also, I would just like to give a big thank you to my current patrons. So for today's episode, it is partly brought to you by my friend. I'll just read out the first names. My friend A. Thank you very much. Cameron, Graham, Hank Martin, P. Jack, Shoku, Sushil, and Trevor. So most of those people are long-term supporters, so I greatly appreciate that. We also have a couple new people, but yeah, any amount is greatly appreciated. So to those people, I say thank you very kindly. If you would like to more directly contribute to the show, which there's no big pressure, only if you want to and you can afford it, then please do consider supporting me on Patreon. And I also have a PayPal link if you're not really into the monthly thing and you'd just like to send me a couple bucks once, which is totally fine. Anyways, so yeah, that's our commercial for today. And I think we'll basically just get started here. What do we got going? Couple people in the chat. All right. So I'm just going to let's see. So I've only got a couple people watching right now, but I'm just going to kind of reiterate the ground rules of this particular stream. So on Sundays I do a live stream Q&A where the main focus is teaching and answering questions. During the live coding, which is today on Mondays, what I basically do is my main focus is to just write code. Now, I will try and answer questions if I'm doing something that is related to the question, or if I'm doing something that's simple enough that I can actually talk while I'm coding, which isn't always the case. So, and I will try and answer, like I say, I'll try and answer short related questions, but if you want long answers to questions and you want me to go into the kind of detail I normally go into, then you're going to want to wait for the live stream Q&A, which happens on Sundays at the same time of the day. So that's all the rambling. What's up? We got Carlos, Mr. Dragonborn, and Linksy. So what's up? Good to see all of you again. And yeah, what I'll quickly do is I'll just give a brief recap of what we're going to do and where we kind of left off yesterday, and then we'll get into coding, and see what happens from there. I have no idea what's going to happen. It could fail epically, but you know, might as well fail hard. So this is my to-do for today, is to finish off the interactors, repositories, write extension functions to add fragments to activities, and copy over UI assets. So I'll kind of briefly explain what these are as I'm kind of building them. I kind of goofed again. I don't know how I do it sometimes, but I had a list. Oops, sorry, let me pull the code into view here. I had a list of all of the different use cases which I want, and like an absolute fool, I accidentally overwrote it, which is hilarious because I actually originally had a paper with all of them on there, and I lost the paper, which sort of made me want to write the list in Notepad, and then I overwrote that. So, you know, just a long string of fails, but it's not the end of the day. I'm going to be able to figure it out off the top of my head pretty quickly, but yeah, you know, good job, Brian. Great work there. So we're going to be building interactors full of use cases, and that's going to confuse the hell out of everyone, so I'll just show you what that looks like in code. We're also going to build the repositories in the domain layer, and I'll talk a little bit about this idea. It's actually an idea I got from mon ami Darrell Bitsy. He's a really good programmer. And if we have time, we'll kind of look at this stuff. This is a very minor one here, just an extension function. We probably actually won't do that because I was fiddling around with it earlier today, and one of the problems with it is actually abstracting the whatever. I think I can do a better. I haven't quite figured out exactly what I want to do here. I figured out the activity part, just not the part where I actually create the functions to totally remove that boilerplate code. But yeah, anyways, not very important. I'll also look at copying over UI assets from the old iteration of the project, because this is a rebuild. And yeah, without further ado, let's have a quick look at the code. Repository is Catalyst. Link should be down in the description box below. Let me just double check that. Yes, down in the description, yeah. So if you want to look at the code, it's there. I did finally make a commit to it. I didn't add all of the files, but I did add the files that I worked on last episode. So what I spent most of my time doing last episode, if I recall correctly, it's all kind of a big blur, is I worked on filling out the domain layer of the application. So this is quite important. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about this, but basically what I want to do with the domain layer, and this is my approach to it, is that it's basically almost like every sort of bit of data I might need to represent, and everything the application might need to do, all in one module, or layer, you could even kind of think of it. And the special thing about this layer is that other than some kind of tool for concurrency, which is the one exception, it has to be devoid of frameworks. You won't see, you know, JSON annotations or Moshi annotations. You won't see Android classes in my domain layer, I don't think ever. The only thing you will kind of see is in these interactors, I will include coroutines, but in a sense, coroutines, although some of them are still experimental, I basically consider that to be a language feature, not so much an external library that I'm working with, even though they are a library. But that's kind of the one exception, whereas before I used to use RxJava, which was kind of my exception to the rule. In Kotlin, I've been using coroutines, and I quite like them because although I still really like RxJava, it's an amazing tool. Coroutines, once you understand how to write them, are easier to write and kind of easier to work with. So what I'll do is, yeah, I basically just worked on this package. So I added one interactor here. I added all of the domain models. That is probably what I spent most of the time doing. Since this is, oh, that's a good voice crack. Since this is a workout logging application, all of the data models are, of course, built around a, details to do with a workout. And if you want to see how I actually built that, you'll have to just go watch the other episode. Lastly, just to recap, we built a result sort of wrapper object. I don't think I finished it totally. Evidently, I didn't. Let's see here. So that, yeah, that wouldn't be that. What would I return? Nothing, nothing. So just give me one moment. This should return a loading. And it shouldn't need an error. Okay, that should be working properly now. So just really, again, to quickly recap, Kotlin sealed classes are really, really cool because you can create, and I know Karl Marx would absolutely hate this, but you can create a tightly restricted class hierarchy. Anyways, kind of a political joke there. But that is actually what it creates. It creates a tightly, I just forgot the word after I just said it, a tightly restricted class hierarchy. So essentially what this means is this result wrapper is what I will use to pass data around the application of whatever type I want, and I can specify the type up here. And then not only can I pass data around the application, but it can represent different states. So it can, for example, represent a value being returned. It can represent some kind of error, a non-fatal error. And it can also represent just loading, which means, so let's say at some point I fire a request off to some service and I'm waiting for the response. I can automatically return a loading result, which will then sort of tell the front end, show spinners or whatever, show the loading screen. So that's basically a quick recap, and then I'm going to stop talking because we got to get coding, because otherwise I will talk forever. So let's work on finishing off these interactors. So what we'll do, I think I'm actually... Okay, we'll start with the interactors. I'm kind of wondering if I should actually start with the repositories instead, but we'll kind of go from here. Anyways, while I write this stuff out, I did have a question from Carlos. And Carlos asks, you were talking last session, so Carlos is talking about the Q&A yesterday, about Dagger. Have I tried Coin? So I'll talk about that as I start writing out these use cases. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to add a couple more interactors here. So for those who are not aware, Dagger 2 and Coin, K-O-I-N, are dependency injection frameworks. This will be exercise template. So the thing, template, there we go. Exercuse tempalta, that's beautiful spelling there. Okay, sorry. Exercise template. We'll see how good I do at coding and talking at the same time. You'll just have to bear with me. They're both dependency injection frameworks. If you're not sure what dependency injection is, I basically explained it all previous live stream, and it's something I talk about a lot on the live stream. So this is going to be workout templates. And so the question Carlos asked was, I talked about Dagger, have I tried Coin? So I have looked into Coin. So the problem with Coin is that it uses reflection, whereas Dagger 2 generates your dependency injection implementation at compile time. So the first time I looked at Coin, okay, let me shut up for a minute. Yeah. I'm just going to stub out these methods and then I will build the repositories, and then I'll probably do a little bit of TDD to actually write the methods. But let's see here. So yeah, what I'm going to do, let's do a little bit of test-driven development in action here, or should I? You know, I'll kind of work on that later. Let's just get some code going, because I think I might lose some people doing that. So let's just get started here. So class workout. So this is going to be pretty simple, a lot simpler than I'm imagining here. So we're going to say suspend fun. I wish I had all that giant list of friggin' things I needed to write. You know what I'm going to do? Give me one moment. I'm going to pull up that list in a side tab in the video, and then we'll work from there, because I don't want to waste all your time just rethinking all of this crap. Anyways, to answer your question about Coin, so I haven't used it in the sense of written code with it. Which would that have been? So it would have been this one, I think. Now on the surface, I've looked at Coin, and the API looks much simpler to configure, and is much simpler to configure. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay. Good. I found the thing I wanted. It looks simpler and easier to use than Dagger, and it is. The problem is the drawbacks for it is that Dagger, as I said, builds your dependency injection at compile time, and Coin does not. Same thing with Codein, Kodein, I think it's spelled. So get workout. Yeah, get workout, and that'll probably be, do workouts have IDs? I think they do. I shouldn't actually call this workout. This should be called something else. Let's call it workout interactor, because I already have a data model called workout. So class to be renamed, yes, okay. I hope it's not going to screw up my workout Pojo, but if it did, that would be totally my fault. Nope, okay, we're good. So the problem, yeah, just I'm trying to give a long answer here, and I'm just not going to be able to. Simply put, there are reasons why I believe Dagger 2 is a better tool, at the expense of definitely being harder to configure. So if you want a quick solution and you don't care about compile time code generation and so forth, you know, I would say using a dependency injection framework is probably better than not doing applying dependency injection. But Dagger 2 really is like the Cadillac of dependency injection frameworks. Okay, I'm going to shut up for a minute and let's slam some code out here. So we got suspending function get workout, which will return, so that's going to be our wrapper object, result wrapper. And it'll either return a workout object or it'll return an exception. I think that's how I've been doing that lately. We'll see. I might change this a little bit because I'm trying to kind of avoid using, how do I do this shit? I was just running into issues with actually using the exceptions. Okay, well that'll do for now. Because I don't actually want to represent fatal exceptions, but you know what, that's fine. Let's jump in here. Okay, so get workout. Where are my thingies here? Cool. Suspend function get workout will return a result of type workout or exception. So this will form the general shape or the general setup of any time I need some kind of response from the backend, it will basically be wrapped in a result. Now it doesn't necessarily have to carry data, it can just tell me something. So let's go ahead and I'm going to copy these out and then we'll I'll basically just stub these out. Okay. So get workout. So that's probably going to require an ID. Does workout have an ID? It has a name. No, it has a creation date. That's what we'll use. So a creation date should be a unique identifier. I just lost where my interactor is. Where is it? Workout interactor. There we go. Okay, so to get a specific workout, we will pass in creation date, which is a string. And then we'll use that creation date to look up the workout in the database. The next thing we need to do is when we want to, of course, this is going to be pretty typical kind of boilerplate CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete kind of thing. And that'll be, so to update workout, I don't think I need a I think I will actually return. I'm trying to decide whether I should return a Boolean here or a workout object. For now, I will actually return a workout. The thing is, I don't necessarily need to return an object if it's just updating, but I might actually want to always serve the front end with the most recent version. Yeah, we'll do that for now. I know some people are probably watching this and thinking like, what the hell is this guy like trying to figure out here? But yeah, so let's go get workout. We've got delete workout. That definitely won't require being returned. We'll just return a Boolean there if it's successful or not. And then what else do we have? We've got get workouts by day. And then we've got get workouts by month. So I'll probably create like an enum. Should I do that? No, day would be specific date. So I would need to basically pass in the whole date object, I would think, and then kind of match it from there. So we're going to just pass in a string for now called date. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then we'll call this one. So this is when I want to retrieve all records on a particular month. Let's call that one date by day. Date by month. And yeah, that'll do. Okay. Cool, so that's all of the interactors for this particular little area. So we're going to leave that for now, but basically all I wanted to do here was stub out every method I'm quite sure I will need for this particular interactor. And let's just hop into the chat really quick and see what's going on. So Linksy is asking, do I use a mechanical keyboard? No, but I actually would like to. If there's a lot of keyboard noise, it's probably because I'm actually using a stand-up desk now. I'm standing, which I like because I can move around and I'm not doing the whole stream like this. But the microphone's pretty close to the keyboard, so that might be what you're hearing. Can coroutines work with live data? Abso-friggin-lutely, yes. I can't give you a long answer there, but the short answer is yes, absolutely. Oh, I gotta talk about this for a minute. So, Marco, I gotta show you guys this. This is hilarious. So, Marco has become a regular stream viewer. Just asked me, have I looked into actors? Coroutine actors, and I was literally this morning just sketching out basically concepts of channels and actors. This is literally the page I was writing, just basically. So what I do whenever I want to understand something complicated or different, I will basically require myself to study the thing until I can explain it in my own words and kind of represent it in a picture that makes sense to me. So my little picture here I have going on is to represent a channel. And I know I said I was going to focus on coding, but this is just such a funny coincidence. And so, yeah, just longer story shorter, I represent like a channel as just these lines with arrows going through. Then the consumer is looping, so it's always checking the channel to see if a new message is received. And then when I want to send something through the channel, I call channel.send. This is all coroutine stuff for all the other people watching this who probably aren't familiar with coroutines. Actors are really cool because there's this big problem with shared mutable state, which is basically, let's say you have one piece of data and three things trying to change that data concurrently, potentially at the same time. You get these things called race conditions, and just you can screw up your shared mutable state, which could be just like a database. So actors and channels and a couple different things are a solution to that problem. Anyways, I'll shut up now. Let's get back to some coding. But yeah, to answer your question, Marco, yes, I have seen that, and they're really cool. Coding and Flow asks, what's crack-a-lackin'? Definitely not this room. There is definitely a cracker right here. Good to see you, though. Thank you for joining me. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Let's get back to some coding. So let's... So the good thing is most of these operations will actually all basically look the same for the other interactors. So I'm going to hop into the exercise interactor. I'm going to change its name to exercise interactor. I'm kind of experimenting here a bit with my naming conventions, so if you have any suggestions there, feel free to do so. I might not agree with you, but feel free to suggest things. I'm very particular about naming conventions because in a large sense, the way you actually name your code just obviously directly correlates with how easy it is to read. And in my opinion, your code should basically read like a book to anyone who is capable of reading the language. I can't tell you how much it pisses me off when I open some repository and people, you know, they apply like it's like they try to model the names of the different parts of their application as close to writing Linux commands as possible. And like, I understand the goal of brevity, but the problem with that is whenever you try to be super concise, the problem with that is that it becomes very unlegible to anyone reading your code, even you. So that's why you'll always notice in pretty much all of my code, I give things long descriptive names. I don't give a shit how long the name is. I can type pretty damn fast. So, and to answer the question, some people say, well, I will save more time writing short, non-descriptive code than I will writing descriptive code. Well, I actually think that's wrong because when I read my code, I almost never have to stop and say, what does this thing do? Because everything says what it does in a very clear way. So I save time because I'm not having to relearn my code. So anyways, I just wanted to go on a little rant there. Let's get back to coding. Sorry about that. All right, so class exercise interactor. That's my little rant on why you should write legible code and why being super concise, I don't actually believe is a valid excuse for writing illegible code, nor is it productive, in my opinion. Now, some people may disagree, and I might actually be kind of wrong in certain circumstances there, but that's just my opinion. This will require I already built the repositories out. No, I just built one. Okay, so I'm going to add in, actually I don't need to yet. let's just do this in sort of more sequential order. No, don't import any of that. So I'm going to hit Control R, and I'm going to replace workout with, is this exercise interactor? So I'll replace the workout word with the exercise word, and replace all. Boom. And result is still result. Yep. Boom. Done. Now, this isn't actually exactly correct. I wouldn't get exercises by day. So what do I write there? Let's see if I can, just give me one moment here. Do I show at some point? Okay, I found it. Okay, so exercises is super simple. It just has, yeah. Get, so this will be probably by an ID or the name of the exercise. It has to be something unique. So here's an interesting question. So I want to digress for a brief moment, because so some of the senior developers will understand that little decisions that like the one I'm about to make are important, and some beginners don't really have a conception about this. So whenever you're building these data model objects, in most cases, you're going to want to have some way of differentiating them in a database, or if you're confused about a database, literally just think of a spreadsheet, because that's basically what an SQL database is by analogy. It's a spreadsheet. You're going to want a unique identifier. Now, the problem with using, say, just the name of the exercise as an identifier is that means that I have to restrict the user from having multiple exercises that have the same name. So that could be seen as kind of, that limits the user, and you always have to think about what you're doing to the end user, even in some minute little change here. Now, on the flip side of this, I don't actually necessarily care that much if the user, I'm not actually that bothered by forcing the user to give every exercise a unique name and to say to them, hey, you can't use this name. That would allow me to keep using the name of the exercise as a unique identifier. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Everything I just said applies to exercise templates. It doesn't necessarily apply to exercises, because exercises are just stored as a collection of objects contained within a workout. And so I think they just need an order. Yes, they just need, so everything I just said applies to the template, which is not so a template is, so when the user wants to add an exercise to their workout, the template will contain like the details in order, it's a template. Hopefully you understand what a template is. The templates do need to be unique. They will be pulled from a database. However, the exercise objects, which will always be just contained within a workout object, and I will still store the workout object, all I need to know is what order they are stored in the workout. That's important. But as far as actually having a unique identifier, I shouldn't need to do that as far as I'm aware. So what I will do here is I will say, I don't need an exercise, sorry. I don't need an exercise interactor here, I don't think. Not to store it to databases. Sorry, all this kind of hit me at once. I want to store exercise templates and workout templates and workouts in a database. All of those will be in different tables, but an exercise object will always be contained within a workout, and therefore I wouldn't store them in their own database. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So I'm actually just going to delete. Should I delete the exercise? Yes, I'm going to delete the exercise interactor. I'll still need some special operations with the interactor for the templates, but I don't think I will need. Yeah, I'm going to make an executive decision as the executive of this project. Okay, I'm just gonna, let's hop into chat for a moment to see what people think about me rambling about this stuff. Not much new. Oops, I'm not actually looking at the live dashboard. That was silly. There we go. Okay. So in response to my rant about naming conventions, Linksy replies, those are the type of people, speaking of people who write really ugly but concise code, those are the type of people who want other people to think they're smarter programmers than they really are. Disgusting humans ought to be euthanized. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but they do piss me off, and I do agree that, you know, I do absolutely agree with that sentiment of I'm going to hide what my code means so that I have to be around to explain it to people because it's too complicated for you to understand. I do totally see that sentiment. All right. There's a lot of agreement in the chat about that point. Nine says, so just regarding the thing I demonstrated with, so actually I'm the same way. I don't actually have a great short-term memory, which surprises a lot of people. I'm actually known in my family for being super absent-minded and for forgetting basic things. But I figured out after a while, it's not that I actually have a bad short-term memory. It's that I focus so hard on individual things that a lot of stuff just doesn't even enter into my conscious experience. But the cool thing is, once I understand something in a deep way, it's generally pretty stuck in there. Except I forget the details, so my explanations are always unique. I'm always re-explaining some picture that I figured out. I'm rambling. Let's carry on. So I deleted exercise interactor because I don't actually need it to work with a database. Maybe deleting it was a bit premature, but it certainly doesn't need CRUD operations. So yeah. Let's move on to exercise template interactor. Holy crap, 40 minutes has gone by already and I've barely made it through my to-do list. Oops. So we're going to hit Shift F6. And that's going, actually no, let's just go Control R, workout, turn it to exercise template, replace all. That kind of screwed up, that's okay though. Actually, I'm not gonna, yeah, let's just kind of skip that. Okay, so get exercise templates. So this won't, so that'll be my name. Update exercise template, that will require a new exercise template object. So we'll call that, we'll just call it temp. No, let's call it template, that might confuse people. Exercise template. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just trying to stub out all of these methods, and then eventually I will start to write some unit tests to actually, when I actually go to write out the implementation. Uncle Bob and a number of people actually recommend, I think, you do all of this stuff within the context of writing unit tests or test-driven development. I kind of go halfway. I like to stub things and create interfaces first, and then I move into the test stuff. But I guess you could make the argument that, you know, the other way is possibly better. I don't know. At least I'm testing, which most of you probably don't do. Hopefully some of you do. So delete exercise template, that's cool. Get exercise template by day, that's irrelevant. So we will need get exercise templates by filter. Let's say filters. And so what are the filters going to be? I think for now we're just going to say filters is a list of string constants. They're going to be string constants, I think, from like an enum or whatever. Yeah, let's do that. Filers, no, filters. There we go. So get exercise templates by filters. So this is when, so the user wants to look up custom exercises they've made, or they just want to see exercises for, another great voice crack. They just want to see exercises for biceps. Christ, I'm almost 25 years old and my voice still cracks. Hopefully I'll hit puberty one day. Okay, I think that's good enough. Yeah. Delete. Okay, we're good here for now. Good enough. I'll build that in a moment. Let's move on to the workout template interactor, which is going to look very similar. No, I want this one. Where's the other one? And then we're just about done that particular to-do item. Again, Control R, work harder, not smarter. Work smarter, not harder, I mean. I screwed up. No, I didn't. Cool. Good. Great. Awesome. Great. Huge. All right. So obviously I will need to still add some stuff here. I'll have to add in the repository. So I'm going to kind of jump to item number 2, which should be able to be done pretty quickly. And I will talk about that. But for now, I'm just going to run a quick commercial break. If you've enjoyed the show so far, please do me a favor and hit the like button down below. And I'll be back in a moment. Okay. How's everybody doing? People enjoying this? All right, so we're about 15 minutes from the end of the show. I will build the repositories, do a little more work in the interactors, and then what I'll do is I will stick around for a couple short questions around in about 10 minutes. So there will be a little brief question period if you have any. So if you are watching this and you do have any questions about what I'm doing, just prepare your question and ask it, and I will try and get to it at the end of the show. But for now, let's carry on with repositories. So one thing that I saw, I mentioned this before at the start of the show. One thing I've taken to doing is within the domain layer, having these repository interfaces. So this is basically like an abstract description of the data sources behind the repository. So we're thinking databases, we can think Firebase, we can think Amazon Web Services, whatever. It's all a data I/O device. And so in the domain layer, I have just an abstraction to represent that. Why is that a really cool idea? Because that means I could actually entirely swap out my data module. The whole thing, I could change it out, and the rest of the application wouldn't change unless I changed the interfaces, the repositories that I'm writing here. That's pretty amazing. That also means that if I want to build a multi-platform project, so I've got my main app, my domain layer, and then I've got the Android implementation, I've got the iOS implementation, I've got the no, never mind, we never do Windows. But yeah, so I've got these different implementations of the domain layer. So this is a really powerful concept if you're a beginner. Very clean architecture. Okay, so let's just build out. So let's hop into exercise template interactor, and what I will do is I will say repository equals exercise template. Let's just copy that up here. Equals this interface, and then since it's red, I'm going to hit Alt. Oops. There we go. I'm going to hit Alt Enter. What? What? Come on. I just want to make the friggin' type. Ay, suka, bliet, idiot, nachoy. Okay, pardon my language, but I was hoping I was going to be able to hit Alt Enter and create this interface, but apparently I can't. So I'm going to right click on the package, and it's going to take an extra 10 milliseconds, but let's go ahead and do this. So that's going to be exercise template repository interface, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll also add the, come on brain, you can do it. Here we go. What else do I need? I need the workout template repository. So workout template repository. Cool. All right, I'll add those to the repository using Git. I guess I could just use the shortcut Control-Alt-A, that would be quicker. Okay, so we're doing pretty good here, but our interactors are lighting up like crazy because I'm not returning anything in these methods here, these functions. That's okay. That should be string again. Okay, cool. So we've kind of worked on our domain layer, our interactors. We created the repositories. So let's just kind of tick that off. I might still do a tiny bit of work, but for the most part, we've done those items on the to-do list. Always work with the to-do list. It just kind of helps you get things done in an efficient order, and it feels good when you finish things. I won't bother doing that today because I haven't even written any activity or fragment code, so that's basically just not relevant. That's something I was actually doing in a different project. And I'll just talk about what I'm going to do, and I think I'll actually do this part off camera, but basically what's going to go on is, as this is a rebuild of a pre-existing project, then where is the repository? What I'm going to do, if I go to the older commits, I think, or is this a totally new code base? Okay, I think the one I'm actually looking for, Sorry, just give me one moment here. Holy shit, did I actually write this way the hell back in 2015? Wow, that takes me back. UI. Okay, what do I want? Yeah. Okay, I think this is the right code. So this is actually a private repository, so y'all can't see it, but this is basically where I have the files for the old version of Catalyst. And what I'm going to do, I won't do this off camera, or sorry, on camera, because as you can see, it's going to be a pretty boring thing, but I'm basically going to grab all of these XML files, all of the ones I want to keep, and then I will take the ones that I want and incorporate them in the new project. Now the problem with doing that is, since this project was built in 2015, I definitely have improved my layouts since then. So for example, I don't think I had, I didn't have any constraint layouts because I don't think they were out in 2015, or maybe they just came out. But yeah, that's going to be a big operation there. But hopefully it'll be easier than rewriting everything. And on the bright side of things, with Kotlin synthetic properties, actually writing the fragments out is going to be a lot easier. So that's going to save a lot of time. Anyways, I don't think we will do that on camera because that's just going to be a pretty boring copy and paste routine. I could show what I'll try and do is I'll show a couple instances of me converting an old layout to a constraint layout setup, which is, constraint layout is amazing. I love it. But I don't think we need to spend a huge amount of time on camera doing that. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of wrap it up here. I'll stick around for approximately 8 minutes. It's 10:52, so I'll stick around until the end of the hour. And if you have any questions, I will answer them. And beyond that, thank you for watching. So what do we got here? We've got a question. So I had a question earlier, I think, about what did I have here? What is the, so this is a good, very good question. Benjamin asks, what is the purpose of having an interactor in Model View Presenter? Fantastic question. Let me pull up a diagram. Wo ist es? Which is German for where is it? There we go. Cool. What is the purpose of having an interactor in the context of a model view presenter architecture? Well, so my preface to this answer is that, in my opinion, model view presenter, or model view view model more specifically, is in some sense, how can I phrase it? It's almost like I view it as an incomplete architecture. And what I mean by that, I'm actually going to pull up a different diagram to introduce this idea. So for quite some time, I've been trying to get away from saying this is model view presenter, this is model view model, and getting locked into this idea that every architecture is composed of 3 primary pieces. Technically, there's kind of 4. The fourth one is what I call the dependency injection layer, or the build layer, or whatever you want to call it. But basically what you need is, whenever you're building an application, this is my opinion, your front end, which I actually generally think of as that's going to be the view and the presenter, and to a degree, I actually keep a part of the model in the front end, which acts as a session/temporary data store. So while the user is currently in the app, I say these are the 3 things you basically always need for a front end. And then for a back end, you're almost always going to need these, at least one of these and at least one of these, probably. So what are these things I'm talking about here? So in essence, I wanted to show you this diagram first, because this one's actually a little incomplete. I actually now have a view model in here in this section. So your question was, what is the purpose of interactors within the context of model view presenter? Several purposes. Number 1, it actually takes some of the pressure off of the presenter or the controller to manage what happens on the back end. In fact, I don't want the presenter to know anything about the back end other than do some operation, return me some data. The way I look at it is, a presenter, if I were to get away from all the names, is a front-end decision maker. It doesn't make decisions about the back end, it just talks to it and asks for data. An interactor, or a use case kind of thing, or kind of a repository pattern, is in some sense a back-end decision maker. And then if you want to think of it in more like a layered perspective, also what the interactor does, again, I'm kind of restating this in a different way, is that the interactor abstracts the model. I just call it the data layer. I don't actually call this a model layer, but most people will understand that this is the model layer. It abstracts the finer details and sort of coordinating the back end from the presenter. Why don't I want the presenter doing that? Because you might be wondering, well, the presenter is basically a logic-driven class, so doesn't it make sense to have it coordinating the back end? The problem with that is that your presenters get very large, because not only are they managing the front-end logic, but they're also managing the back-end logic. That can be a huge amount of work to do. So I offload some of that into these interactors in a very abstract way. It doesn't know anything about even the use cases don't actually know how the back-end really works. What is the extra benefit of doing this? This is a really key point. What it allows me to do is that I can have my presenter call one method. So my presenter can, let's hop back into code really quickly. So when my presenter, I haven't actually written any of the presenter code, so you'll have to just bear with me. But when the presenter asks, let's say, get workout template, by having an interactor in between here, I could actually say, so local, this is going to be pseudocode, obviously, local repository dot get whatever workout template, and then I could say remote repository dot get workout template. We'll see, I'll actually do this later on. These will both be of type, I didn't actually write it out here, but these will both be of type, I would say like local, and then they're all going to be of type, what's the thing called? Workout template, workout template repository. Again, it's not... Did I misname that? No, I didn't misname it. It's just not... whatever. Yeah, I'll just kind of write it out a little bit. Okay, so this is a really cool situation because I can coordinate the backend. So maybe one of the most common use cases we deal with as Android developers is having a local data source and a remote data source. So I can manage this crap, which I really don't want to manage in a presenter. I don't want to do this stuff in a presenter. That's just not, in my opinion, at all what a presenter should be focused on. Instead, I use the interactor to handle that stuff, and I'm trying to demonstrate it in multiple different ways with these diagrams. But as you can see, let's say I have one presenter command that on the back end actually needs to go through a system service and a local repository and a remote repository. So let's say, for example, I fucking hate Windows 10's stupid photo viewer. Sorry. What just... Oh! This is the dumbest thing ever. Okay, here we go. Why do you keep fucking zooming out, you stupid thing? Okay, sorry. Oh, this is the worst photo viewer app I've ever used. How hard is that to screw up? I'll try one more time. Okay, I'm not going to touch anything. When your presenter asks for one operation, so let's say the presenter wants to log a user in. So first we ask a system service, do we have network access? If there's no network access, then just immediately say to the presenter, hey, you're not connected to the internet. We're not going to be logging anything in. And then after the login, or sorry, checking the internet access, then we go over to the repository, and then we actually try and log the user in. Maybe if the user logs in successfully, sorry, I should actually rephrase this. If there's no internet access, we can actually get the most recent data that the user, like a snapshot, a cache of the most recent data. We can still actually go and check on that if we need to. But if the internet is accessible, then we default to the remote repository, which has the most up-to-date data. So if you want to imagine like a Facebook setup, this is actually at an abstract level what Facebook application does. It will give you cached local data if that's all it has access to, or it will parse the network for the most recent data. And this is easy to do if you have a layer of abstraction between the presenter and the backend. Hopefully that answers your question about where an interactor fits into a model view presenter architecture. Yeah, let's just have one last look at the chat. Holy anger management. Yeah. Okay, yeah, just a last couple comments here. So Carlos Perez says, thank you for the session, Ryan. De nada, you're very welcome, Carlos. I'm not actually sure if you're Hispanic, but I assume. Denny asks, is Kotlin the only language you do live tutorials on? I pretty much, at this point, most of my Android code is going to be in Kotlin, and every Android project I write from here on, I would prefer to write it in Kotlin, if you're curious about that. I do have an extensive background in Java. That's where I cut my teeth, as the expression goes, on sort of enterprise app development, but I really like Kotlin. If you're not sure about adopting it, I really have very few bad things to say about it other than my voice constantly cracking, which has nothing to do with Kotlin. And then Nalayan says, don't talk bad about Windows 10 or it will update and restart on its own. It's very true. We're going to close this show with one more rant about Windows 10. So the other day, what was I doing? I was just doing, I'm low-key writing a book right now, which I'll give bigger announcements on that later, so don't ask for finer details, but I'm writing a book. And I was, all I had open was a browser window, and I think it was just like a couple browser windows. And so I'm busy just typing away, and I'm noticing my computer's CPU fan, like every 30 seconds it's normal, and then 30 seconds later it's like on full. So I'm thinking, okay, there's no way in hell that like 2 browser windows is causing my CPU to shit itself. What's going on? So I open up the task manager to see what's going on, and there's all of these bizarre Windows update or connectivity processes going on. The exact name escapes me. Maybe I'll see if I can open up. It might actually be here. Let's sort by name. See if I can find it. No, I don't. Oh, it's one of these stupid things. Okay, what I forget which exact Windows service it was, but it was one of these things. And what it would do is it would jump to like 30% CPU usage, and then it would jump up to like 60% just on this one service. I have no updates going on that I'm aware of. And sure enough, there was one extra window that I had open. I had the Windows 10 voice recorder, and even though I wasn't recording anything, simply by having that window open, it was causing this memory leak in this friggin' service. And I found that out because after Googling for like 10 minutes what the hell this service does and what's going on, all I did was close that window, which I had forgotten to close, and then it stopped. So yeah, Windows 10 voice recorder, even when it's not working, was causing a friggin' memory leak. So yeah, like literally destroying half my CPU every 30 seconds. So that's now, that being said, I still like Windows. I'm coding on a Windows machine, obviously, but you know, that's one of those things where it's just like, come on, bro. Anyways, yeah. Let's see, we got one more question. Oh! Ansh, you gave me a really... So, Ansh, here's the... Let me say this. So, Ansh asks, what's your thinking process while working on any project regarding the things I don't know? Do I try to learn it all or just learn things related to the project at hand? To answer your question very briefly, you literally can't learn everything at once and then build the project. So don't try. I tried, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You want to learn things based on projects and demos that you're building. Now, I'm not going to expand on this right now because the video I'm going to be releasing this week, one of my videos, is going to answer this exact question. So, Ansh, watch for that video. I'll explain it in very fine detail why you should not try to learn programming in a laundry list style. Okay, I've got this concept, then I want to learn this one, then I want to learn this one. And after I learn these 15 concepts, then I write the code. That is like the natural way I thought I should learn programming. The exact opposite is true. Unless you're someone whose brain works drastically different than mine, which is possible for most people, especially people who feel like they suck at programming at first, which is me. I was not good at the early part of programming, the part where I was learning the basics of the language. I sucked at that because just remembering strings of commands and keywords is not what my brain is suited to. So whereas once I write a project and I have source code demonstrating the concepts, then I don't even need to think about these stupid jargon definitions of this, that, and the other. I just think about the code and how it works at runtime, and that's to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain. That's how I'm able to answer some very complicated questions in a really quick and concise manner, is that I basically just explain what I learned in the code instead of struggling to memorize long, wordy definitions of things. So that doesn't totally answer your question. It does answer it shortly. Please watch for that video. That's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. Ange says wait. What if you get stuck? What if you get stuck? Yeah, I see your follow-up. I'm still going to kind of address it the same way in the video, but to give an important thing here, Anch, is you're actually asking basically the most important question you can ask as a developer. And a lot of people don't realize that, is that there really is the right way to go about learning code, and there's the wrong way. And I started with the wrong way and quickly figured out, okay, this is not how I learn code. And that led me to emphasize learning from source code as a self-taught developer, as opposed to always referring to textbooks and articles and all that stuff, which are fine sometimes. You can go to the textbooks and the articles and the videos when you need to learn something in your project. But like I say, don't approach it like I have to learn all of these concepts, because there's too many concepts to learn at once. You literally can't learn all of the concepts required to build a perfect Android application and then just go from that conceptual knowledge to be able to building the whole thing. Because there's two skills you need. You need the conceptual and you need the practical knowledge. I focus on the practical. A lot of people focus on the conceptual when they teach. And I think that's why I'm kind of regarded as a pretty good teacher, is that I try to teach you what you need to know in practice. Not so much some vague but accurate, sometimes technical definition. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Peace out.